Good morning, everybody. It is December 17th, 2022, and it is 5:02 in the morning. Okay, this is part 2 of The Old Man and the Boy, and the old man's boy grows older. Robert Ruark, with a foreword by Peter Hathaway Capstick. Part 2 of the introduction. Robert was a hopeless, incurable romantic. A man could suffer worse afflictions. Still, as the twig is bent, so grows the tree. And the old man must have been a mighty fine twig bender. Certainly nobody had a greater influence on the boy's short life than did his grandfather, Captain Edward Ned Hall Adkins, a registered ship's master, hunter, fisherman, and full-time gentleman. In his own 70-odd years of wanderings through the odd corners of the earth, in the pages of great books, he gained knowledge and a sense of honor that came to rest in a grandson who could coax a dream from a jackhammered Underwood like Rubinstein tickled a Steinway. The reiterate here the things he taught the boy would be to plunk my thumb into the icing of a beautiful chocolate cake. It might taste as good later, but it wouldn't come to the table as prettily. I'll leave it to you to cut the slice. The old man's and the boy's adventuring is one thing, but how about the boy himself? As the old man might have put it, his grandson indeed spent a life hearing the owl and seeing the elephant. Robert Chester Ruark, Ned would have told you, got himself whelped in Wilmington, North Carolina, a passel of years ago, back in 1915, persactly, probably to keep the young Visigoths out of their hair. His parents took to sending the boy on vacations and weekends to the parole of his material grandfather in a small coastal town where the old man and Miss Lottie, the boy's grandmother, lived. These were the years that produced most of the material for both these boys. Although much of the old man's boy grows older is as charming a squirrel head stew of memories relative to the old man's teachings as is the first book. If I'm not getting icing on my mustache here, I would venture that the two most important lessons the Capum imbued in the only semi-tame boy were probably those of seeing instead of looking and the power of reading. That the influence was pretty effective might be deduced by the fact that Ruark entered the University of North Carolina at the age of 15, turned loose on the world in 1935 as a journalism major. He already had a job through school on a newspaper where, despite living in one suit and 2 pairs of shoes for 4 years, he worked as reporter, editor, subscription salesman, and ad manager for the Depression days. Duke's ransom of $10 a week. Times were plenty tough before the war, but over the 5 years since school, the boy kicked, bit, cussed, and scratched his way through several Washington, D.C. newspapers, rising from copy boy to sports writer with a stipend of $25 a week. During World War II, Ruark was a gunnery officer on munitions ships and also tried his hand at some magazine pieces. His experiences at sea show up in most of the 13 books that bear his name. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching.